Clint here we go again with a wonderful story of recovery from crippling rheumatoid arthritis. G'day, Deb. Thanks for coming at us all the way from Chicago.
Oh, thank you for having me.
I was in
Thank you.
Chicago recently. We just missed each other, didn't we? I went to Veggie Fest and gave a talk
Yes.
there, but you said you were out of town for that. So on this platform, we'll get a chance to meet in person and to get to know each other because prior to this, we haven't really had much of a conversation other than you've jumped on a few of our social media platforms and said how well you've done. So why don't you give us a snapshot of what we're in for on this call?
Well, I just wanted to let you know how inspiring you've been, and I really appreciate all the podcasts. I love hearing everyone's story, and everyone does have a story. So they're all inspiring, and I listen to every single one of them. They're just been great.
Awesome.
Um,
Yeah, great.
and
Thank you.
thankfully, my journey has been very short. I was diagnosed in 2014, and I went from being a very active person, working, big social life, kids, grandkids, and just
Mm,
to not understanding what was happening to my body. I've always been well, and thankfully for that. But then in 2014, I noticed my energy level just plummeted, and I thought I was just working too hard, and so I went to a doctor, and they referred me to a rheumatologist right away because I was having some changes in my hands. After the description I gave her, she said, "I think you need a rheumatologist." So I went, and she was very nice, but she really, gave it to me straight. Like, you have RA, and this is going to be your life. Here's the medications we're going to start you on, and then I'll see you in 3 months, and we'll talk about if they're working. So
mm-hmm.
it was
Yeah,
very
okay.
shocking, because
Mm-hmm.
I'm a nurse, so I'm familiar with the medical field.
Yeah,
But for you to be in it personally is, you know, shocking. It was very um, disappointing, and the immediate changes I needed to make were shocking. Because you go from this active person to, oh no, no, you have to slow down, and I couldn't. I I had to rest all the time. I was so tired all the time. I couldn't even explain the exhaustion I was having. And it was debilitating and stressful and depressing, at that time. So I got on the methotrexate right away, and that didn't work right away, but it was very hard to take. Uh,
mm-hmm.
it was, you have the drug hangover for at least 2 days, of
Mm-hmm.
that. It's hard on your gastric system, and then you feel like somebody's just, it's just you've been hit by a truck, basically. And
Sure.
I deemed it my medication day. It was the medication day, because then I just knew I wasn't going to be feeling well. And then the next day you didn't feel great. So anyway, methotrexate was very difficult. And then
Yeah.
it did start to work, and I noticed my pain was going away, and my energy was coming back, but that didn't last very long. And
Mm-hmm.
so during this time, I was doing some research as myself, like, what can I do personally to help
Mm-hmm.
this along?
Okay, so you started to do some research, as we do a few months in, as you're feeling the exhaustion just from your immune system being overactive. People call it an underactive. What's happening is that there's a body trying to eliminate all these foreign proteins in the blood, and treating all of them as an enemy, and the body just gets exhausted. And then you throw methotrexate on, which has the number one side effect of fatigue,
Yeah,
and you've got big
yeah.
negative on top of big negative, and I call it the walking zombie effect. So, okay, and so you started to do some research. This is heading in now more of a positive direction.
You don't know if the treatment and the disease itself are which one is which at this point. It's like, am
Yeah.
I prepared for the disease? or the medication. So, so it did start to work, but then that started to wear off, and I went back to the doctor about 6 months later, and she wanted to start me on Humira. So I put her off on that because if it was going to be anything like the methotrexate, I didn't want anything to do with it. So I put her off, and then finally, after a year, I said, "Okay, this methotrexate, I need to try to get off that. Can we try the Humira?" So
Wow. Okay.
she had me on both. She had me on both, and
yeah. Now I'm curious here. A lot of countries, they keep you on the methotrexate either because they believe that you'll get more symptomatic relief, or because in Australia, for example, if you're going to go on one of those biologic drugs, then you need to retain the methotrexate therapy so as for the government to cover the costs of the Humira, because it costs over 50,000 Australian dollars per person per year to the government to cover the costs of the Humira drug. And so they, I guess the government says, well, look, we want this to be effective, so we require the methotrexate to be involved as based on what the evidence seems to suggest to get the best possible results. Now, that data is about a year old. I don't know if that's still accurate, but I'm curious, were you able to then drop the methotrexate, or did she insist then you actually just add the Humira?
So they overlapped for a few months, and then I was able to stop the methotrexate after the Humira started to work. And so that was helpful. The Humira wasn't quite as debilitating to take as the methotrexate was. And so I did start feeling better. I took that for about a year. And then during December, I caught a cold.
Oh,
and
here we go.
It was bad. It was bad. And so I had to stop the Humira.
Oh my gosh.
And that
this is the problem. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So you go back to zero, and that was frightening in itself. And because I had never been really that sick before. And, so.
Okay, so let me get this straight. You just got the common cold that you might get every once a year or every other year or something, depending on your immune system. But this time when you got it, because you're on Humira, it was so severe, your body couldn't fight it, and you had to be taken off the drug.
Well, and I ended up going into the ER one day because I was having chest issues.
Oh, God.
It was more of a bronchitis, and they said that I actually had pneumonia.
There you go. Yeah, I was going to use that word. Yep.
So then that was frightening, and, stop the Humira. So then you're off of that. So then your symptoms start coming back.
What a mess.
And I had to quit my job because, I couldn't
Oh, my
go
God.
into work. And so it was very stressful and, sad. But, you have to keep plowing forward, So that at that time, I started really researching. And that's how I found you. I found a great community of people. I found Chris Wark, who's, helping cancer patients. And they're very similar communities, So the community is amazing and very helpful. And so I got your program and started listening to your podcast. And I kept thinking that I could do it my way.
Oh, yeah.
So I had stopped everything that I could, like sugar, processed foods, dairy. I had stopped dairy a year before, and but then I was still a carnivore. And so because, I have to cook for the family, and I just kept thinking, well, I'll do it my way. I'll see if this works for me. And then I watched one of your podcasts, and the client said, you have to do it 100%. You can't do it your way. And it was like he was talking to me. And I said, okay, all right. So I said, I've devoted so much time and effort into making changes, I might as well just
do it.
Go all the way.
Yeah.
And so I just didn't do the fasting part because I had dropped a lot of weight.
Sure.
And so I had actually gone to a nutritionist or a dietitian. It was the doctor sent me to a dietitian, and she couldn't talk to me about food at all. She She wanted me, the best advice she gave me was to get on MyFitnessPal, which it helped me a lot because I'd never counted calories before. And so I was able to put in everything I was eating and making sure that I was getting enough calories.
Mm-hmm.
But that was the only thing she gave me that I walked out of her office with, because she wanted to put me on calcium supplements because I wasn't eating dairy anymore.
And this was actually someone who's been educated as a nutritionist.
Yeah, it's a big hospital here. Yes.
Right.
And so I left there and told my doctor to
to get a new preferred supplier for
Yes.
nutritionalists. Yes.
So then once I stopped, and it was November of last year that I stopped the meat. And so I was totally on the program. And,
Okay, so what's for people who are listening in the future, that is just on 12 months ago. So 11 months ago. Okay.
And that's when, about a month into it, I noticed that my energy level just went through the roof. And by then I was off the Humira. And so my energy level went up and the pain went up and my clarity, like.
Hang on, you said pain went up. You mean pain went down?
Hey, it was the foggy brain, I think people describe it.
Yeah.
That had lifted, and it was just amazing. I said, I'm just going to keep going. And it was difficult in the beginning, but, and still it's a challenge, but my mantra is nothing tastes as good as feeling good. Every time I want to eat, I tell myself, I'm feeling great. I'm not going to, I want to keep going. So
fantastic.
It's been a journey.
So just to bullet point it then, so you're on the methotrexate, that didn't work. You went on to the Humira, that was giving you more pain relief. But then when you got sick, it turned into Humira quickly and dangerously. So you had to get off the Humira. And then you were off the Humira and in pain while searching for solutions. And you took upon our program in your own variation. But when you decided to do it the way that it's laid out, then your energy levels flew up and everything improved quickly.
Everything improved. Everything.
Right. So what's the situation now compared to before with regards to your pain and so forth?
Well, in April, I had been feeling so good. I was able to start looking for a job again. I was so excited to be feeling good. I put my resume online, and I was contacted right away, and I was so excited. I was nervous but excited, and I feel it was scary because I hadn't held a schedule in a while. It was all about treating my illness and trying to get better and feeling good. So I actually have been working since June, and I work 30 hours a week. I'm excited to be. I thought I'd never work again. And so I'm feeling great. I work out about 3 times a week now, and I'm doing a lot of yoga, and it's been wonderful. Yeah, I have to be mindful. I always have to put myself in check. If I'm starting to feel some twinges or any kind of ache or pain, I have to reconsider what I'm doing. I think you call it a reset.
Yep.
And that's what I do. I change things up a little bit more and start again. And it always works. It always does. And, I know, there's plenty of opportunity to cheat, but when I'm on the path of goodness, then I know that, that's going to serve me better. And it always does.
Mm-hmm.
It always does. Mm-hmm. So I can't deny, that it doesn't work.
Yes.
It definitely works.
So you're in this situation now, the complete confidence and control situation, where you are your own puppeteer, and as you see things start to, like if you're driving your car and you start to veer off the road just a little bit, you know how to bring it back safely onto the road again. And then with time, it becomes one of these unconscious competencies where you can have a conversation and you can, with someone in the passenger next to you, and you can listen to music. And sometimes you've been driving for ages and you've thought, I don't even remember making those turns and doing all this stuff. It's all happening unconsciously. In the same way, you can keep your body on track. Your behaviors are consistent with success, and it all seems to flow effortlessly in your life. And especially as you expand your food base and exercise becomes a habit as opposed to a chore. And then it's all self-supportive, then you've got this lifestyle that continues to support your gut health. And when you have a healthy gut, you have a healthy body. And so our goal is simply make our gut healthy and everything else is fine.
Yes.
So well done and congratulations. This is superb. Now, before we move on to getting some tips from you, and I want you to share some of your little advanced strategies that you might have developed yourself going through this that other people can learn from. Can you just tell me what your rheumatologist has said since your last visit? And just, I always like to hear, I call this like my palm slap to the face moment, where you hear the rheumatologist say, oh, well, you were lucky, or, oh, well, look, in some cases this happens, but don't worry, it's going to come back any second. So let's hear what yours said.
Well, he's been around a while, and when I first saw him, because I changed rheumatologists, because she was the original one was out of my area, so I got one closer to me. And when I went to see him originally, he said, what can I do for you? And I told him my plan. I said, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to do this program, and I need you to be there to order my meds, order x-rays.
Good for you. This is awesome. Yeah.
And he looked at me, he says, I can do that,
Wow. And, what a great rheumatologist.
Isn't he great?
Yeah.
And so then he said, well, if you want to try a new medication, I have one that I think could help you. Zalexia or something.
Xeljanz? Yeah, it's a tablet biologic.
Yes, yes. And I said, well, I hope I never have to take that, And he said, okay. I said, can you tell me anything about, can you give me any advice on diet or other things that I can do to help myself? And he said, no, you're on the right path.
Oh, good.
That's all he said.
Good.
So, God bless him. He was willing to try, and I haven't seen him since.
Oh, you haven't. Okay.
No.
All right. Well, I might have to cover the cost of your next visit, so you can go in and tell him what you've done.
I have an appointment with him in the next month. I just thought I would go get my x-rays and
blood work,
because my blood work wasn't bad in the beginning. The only thing that was abnormal was my RF, which was elevated. Everything else was okay. So I thought, well, I'll try testing them again, and then seeing how much they've improved.
Yeah, definitely. So even if your C-reactive protein and your SED rate weren't bad when you started, there's still a lot of improvements that can be measured. Your levels might not be reflective of your symptoms, and that's quite common. But relative to your own previous tests, there can be information to be gathered. So if you were to go and get your C-reactive protein done again and your SED rate, make sure you ask for high sensitivity CRP, because if last time, let's say when you were diagnosed, it might have only been a 5 milligram per liter, you might find that now it's a 1.1 or something. But if you only get the regular CRP test, it might say less than 5, all right, or less than 4. And that's not very informative, because less than 4 could be 3.9 or it could be 0, and they are vastly different figures. All right. So make sure you do that.
I will.
All right. Awesome.
Okay.
So let's move on and talk about, have you got anything that you've learnt through this process? And I'm putting you on the spot here because I didn't prep you for this. But are there any things that jump out for people who are going through the process and who are kind of projecting and hoping that they can get to the kind of results that you're at? What would you say? Is there just some things that come to mind for encouragement or tips or strategies that really helped you?
Well, I've been a yoga teacher for a few years, so the meditation, I would start that right away. If someone is, because it's a whole health thing, it's mind, body. So, while you're on this journey of your physical health, it helps to start the meditation as well. If you're not if you don't meditate yet, it is huge. I can tell you, it definitely helps everything along because your mindset, is very encouraging then for yourself, because you need that encouragement from within. Like, I can do this. This is going to happen. I'm feeling a little bit better than I did yesterday, because sometimes you feel like an island out there.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're by yourself, and you're the one that's on the plant-based diet, and everyone else in the place is eating normally. And so the mindset that you have with that, gives you strength. It totally, is so helpful.
Completely agree. And the lists of benefits for meditation are endless. I had a podcast with a meditation teacher, I think about 10 episodes ago, or 10 or 15 episodes ago. So listeners should definitely go back and listen to that, because we cover a whole episode all on meditation and the benefits of that. So definitely go back and watch or listen to that episode. That's really, really good to hear. And do you implement that for one long session a day or a couple of short sessions? What's your strategy with meditation?
My strategy is two short sessions.
2 short sessions. Okay. So similar to one of our sort of much loved members of our community called Hannah, and she's going to be coming on another podcast soon. She found that just doing 3 short, and when I say short, I mean like 6-minute little meditation sessions a day, dramatically lowered her pain levels. And so it's good to get that reassurance from you. 2 short ones a day, and you saw a great benefit for that, which is great. So what other tips have you got for us, Deb?
Well, I found that I was a vegetable eater before, but the vegetables, I needed to be more creative with them. So I found if you like one vegetable more than others, just find 10 ways to make that.
Yeah.
You can put it, and then I had a go-to protein shake that I used for a plant-based protein shake. So when I you just need that boost and good calories. So I would drink that a couple times a day, and that was significant.
What was
when
in
I
that?
was just starting out.
What'd you put in
It has spinach and walnuts, almond milk, and the plant-based protein powder, and frozen banana. And that's it.
Okay. Yeah. So it's a green smoothie, right? It's a green smoothie with some protein added. So it still falls within the convention of our green smoothie recommendations. You had some advanced things in there compared to a lot of people who are in extreme state. So that gives me an indicator that you had a relatively reasonable level of gut health. Even at that point, in that relatively early stage, because the nuts and the protein both can be a little bit problematic when you're in the early stages. So, I've just, without having to get a stool sample, I can tell you that your gut health, your bacteria diversity and numbers were not as bad as the average person with rheumatoid at that point. So, well done.
I was very fortunate.
And if you had have stayed on a bad path with your eating and just continued to deploy medication after medication, then who knows where where your gut health would have went.
Exactly.
Any other tips for us?
The juicing really helps.
Okay. This is the celery and cucumber.
The juice. Yes, the celery cucumber juice was amazing. because, like you've said, there's no way you would eat all of that, but to drink it is easy, and you're getting all those, nutrient dense vitamins. So
Yeah.
it's so important. It's just, people have to, when you want to go into the program, you really have to understand that, this is going to be your new life, and it's going to be good. It's going to be great, compared to where you were. So, you're going to have to get friendly with your kitchen because you're in there a lot, it's okay. Get everybody else in there with,
Yeah, that's great.
And it's time well spent. It really is.
It is, isn't it?
That's all I can.
Yeah.
It really is.
It's
once you're moving forward and you feel that relief, and, you just want to keep on that train, So you just,
progress is addictive, isn't it?
It is. And, keep it simple is what I would say mostly, is just keep it simple. Because when you start to, like some days I'll miss lasagna, like, oh, I wish I could have a big piece of lasagna right now, Well, then I'll get creative and I'll try to find a plant-based lasagna.
Right.
Well, that's well and good, but, usually it's not the same. I mean, yes, it's satisfying in that instant, but it's like, okay, well, I really didn't need that.
Right.
If I keep it simple, I stay on the good path, instead of worrying about what I'm not eating anymore.
Right, sort of chasing this lasagna dream and creating an inferior kind of substitute, as it's unsatisfying and it's disappointing. Right, yeah. I never did that. I never tried to substitute anything that I left behind for an alternative. And, even when we go out to places that are vegan restaurants that have substitute meats in soy formats and all that, I never eat any of that. I just don't even, to try and substitute and recreate something that I knew used to be bad for me, bad for animals, and bad for the environment. I mean, I'd prefer to run the opposite direction, and it's such a they're not healthy anyway, either of those processed things. So,
No.
Yeah. So
it's not worth it. And that's what you realize, is it's really not worth it. And if I keep it simple, I feel much better. So
It's amazing, isn't it? I even noticed that people, when they're trying to reintroduce, say, and they're doing okay with rice, then they'll try and introduce rice crackers. And even though it's derived from rice, just the processing that's involved, and even with minimal preservatives and everything, that this seems to be a problem with handling those slightly, well, I don't know if you'd call it slightly, but foods that have been processed from a healthy source into a processed food. Again, the body just seems to just not do so well on those foods. And we continually ask the question, and we always get the same answer: just eat whole foods and just eat plants, and shut up, brain, just do it, and
right.
people spend.
I did find that the buckwheat groats mixed with quinoa, that's a staple for me. Yeah. I have it every week. I use it for everything. I use it as my rice. I put things on top of it. I put it in things. It's just a staple. They cook exactly the same. So I make a big pot of it on Monday, and I have it for the week, and it's great.
Well, that's why you've done so well. That is why, because that was my staple as well. That was my staple for months and months and months, because every time I tried to test something else, I just wouldn't feel quite as right. And by staying on that for a very long period of time, it's just so pain relieving and health promoting for your gut bacteria. It's a complete protein. Both of those are complete proteins, and both alkalizing and non-irritating, because they're not grains. They're actually, pseudo grains or seeds. I mean, they're the miracle food for trying to find that narrow path through the mountain where you're not eating meat and dairy, but you're eating something that's healthy, alkalizing, and all these wonderful things without triggering things with the cereal grains. So, that's why I say it's a narrow path through the mountain. So
yes, and organizing the pantry in a new way now is easier because you know
Yeah.
you don't have to go buy all that other stuff now. You have all these things that work for you, and so now it's simple. You know, it's life is much simpler because you know you're not going to feel good if you deviate from this norm. You know.
Well, in a funny way, or in a convenient way, the one thing we do have with rheumatoid arthritis is a wonderful alarm system. We have an alarm system that goes off every time we eat the wrong thing. Now, the things that we eat wrong, once we're at a stage that you're at, are the things that other people are eating wrong without the alarm systems. So,
Yes.
like, it's not like what's healthy for someone with rheumatoid arthritis is different to what's healthy for someone who has type 2 diabetes, or is what healthy for someone who's trying to avoid, increasing heart disease risk. A low-fat, whole foods, plant-based diet is the answer for all of these problems. And so what we have with rheumatoid is this alarm system that says, nope, that's not low-fat, whole food, plant-based diet. And you're like, thank you.
Right.
Right, because that's what the body doesn't react to as much, right? And again, when we're in the early stages of our healing, we've got such a messed up digestive system that we need to give it really simple, basic things for a while and expand into our more diverse diet. But when you get to, as I said, where you're at, then you have that alarm system that's helpful for the rest of your life, really, because it's not going crazy. It's just giving you some little warnings,
Yes, and they do. They definitely warn you.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Well, thank you, Deb. I wanted to make this one nice and punchy and upbeat, and you've really helped in doing that. And hearing your story makes me just feel so good, and knowing that your life has been improved so much and that you are in control, and that's what we're after. We're after this complete confidence and control. And from here, you have the rest of your life just to uphold some discipline. And then with that discipline, you have ultimate freedom away from your foods, with your ability to travel and your ability to go back to work, which you've done, and your ability to be social again and get rid of that brain fog and be out of that extreme tiredness. I mean, so much opens up when we simply just narrow down our diet and keep our gut healthy and exercise regularly.
Yes, for sure. And you're doing great work, and I'm helping you spread the word. I'm out there telling everybody, find the community, find it. It's there. It may not be in your circle, but
yeah, thanks a lot. Most of our community, grows mostly through word of mouth, and it's helped along by having a media platform like this. But it's when people do really well and they tell their family and friends, and then those family and friends know someone with this condition, and nothing's more powerful than having a personal connection with someone who has had tremendous improvements to their health. So thank you. And anyone who's listening who feels positive about the results they've achieved, tell everyone and certainly reach out to me, because I'm always looking for more people to interview and to help inspire other people. So if that fits you, reach out to me. So thanks so much, Deb, and I hope you have a wonderful afternoon there in Chicago.
Thank you. Best wishes to you.
Thanks again.
Thank you for having me. All right, take care.